Hey, this is Christian Jones with Fireworks Stand Marketer. Welcome to the Fireworks Stand Marketer podcast. This is a podcast that we've set up where we want to have, I think, important conversations about the retail fireworks industry, kind of the fireworks industry at large. Sometimes it'll be myself with other digital marketing experts. Sometimes we'll have industry experts, retailers. And I think we've got a blend of a lot of things today with Rick Hoffman. Rick is the founder, right, of Hoffman Family Fireworks down in southeastern Missouri.
Missouri, about 100 miles south of St. Louis.
Yeah, and he's been in the game. Rick, how long have you been doing fireworks
Well,
for?
continuously this last time for almost 50 years.
Wow.
As a kid, many of us at one point worked in a fireworks location, and that's where I started. Fortunately, my father had a small gas station in a little town north of here, and at that time, it was fairly common to see wholesalers drive around and dump off a load of fireworks and say, here, sell them, and then I'll come back and collect 40% of what you sold, and you keep the rest. And that was appealing enough to my
Wow.
dad. And I was old enough, along with a cousin, that he had free labor. So he did what I guess any parent would do to keep their kids busy in the summer, and we sold fireworks. And I did that for
Wow.
6 or 7 years. So that was my introduction to fireworks.
Okay. So it's a small operation when you first
Very
start.
much so. I
It's,
mean, like
yeah.
others in the area were selling fireworks, and it was a matter of so many two by fours and a blue tarp, and that was your stand.
Wow. So you've come kind of full circle, like just the evolution of like then to now. It's obviously changed a lot. Your organization's changed a
Back
lot.
then, if you carried every item you could possibly find, you could only have probably 30 items. It was pretty well all generic,
Wow.
and most of it didn't
Wow.
work very well. And that was kind of the
Mm,
expectations of the public. They felt like, well, yeah, we'll buy this, but the bottle rockets may not all work, and the comets may not go very high. But it took a while for the industry to really move forward in terms of the issues of performance and safety. And of course, that
hmm.
changed the markets considerably. And that was one of the reasons
Hmm.
I decided to get back in it, because I saw the industry was kind of moving to a whole different direction with regards to what they were selling, how well it was working. Uh, it was
Hmm.
a different marketing philosophy also when people got into it, other than Black Cat, and started having a
Hmm.
competitive environment, so that we were seeing a lot of better stuff coming out that I didn't mind
Wow.
selling. So that
Hmm.
kind of gave me
Right.
the reason. And of course, my kids, we had four, were getting old enough that I thought it's time for them to learn to make change and meet the public and
Yeah.
find out that most people are very nice, but not everybody is.
Yes.
And that, they had to earn their keep.
Yes. What time, or rather, what age did you start your kids in the
Well,
business?
we had four kids within 6 years. So the oldest was
Okay.
about 9, and then
Okay.
the others would be somewhat visible, if nothing else, because they had to be somewhere. Uh, but it didn't
Yeah.
take long, and I mean, luckily, they enjoyed it, and their friends would stop in, and it was very
Right.
much homey atmosphere
Hmm.
that they
Hmm.
enjoyed enough that they still are doing it. So I guess
I
that
love that.
maybe speaks as well as anything I can say.
I think it does. I've actually got four kids myself, Rick, and they were all born in a 6 year period as
All right,
well. So we've got that in common. And my seven
on
year
my
old
end,
is gonna, oh, say that again,
three
sorry.
girls and a boy on my end.
Okay. Two boys and two girls
All
on
right,
mine.
well,
We went boy, girl, girl, boy. So I've got the bookend
nice.
boys and some ladies in the middle. And my 7 year old will be helping me with my stand this year. And I think I've got some questions for us, but it's good to get some context on you. And I think some of it is like what I want this podcast to be is maybe like the secret here is storytelling. I think there's a lot of great, talented business owners, and I don't, in the fireworks space specifically, and I don't think that there's one place for the industry to have conversations about not just buying product, but what works? This is a weird space. It's a great space, but it's unique. I mean, all of us right now in April are sitting on some level of tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands to maybe millions of product. And we're praying for good weather. We're praying for favorable stuff from our permitting processes and hiring. And I think that it's a great, lucrative, awesome industry to be in. But I wanted to start this podcast to try and capture some of the stories for people that are considering getting into this space, just people that are in it and are discouraged, people that are wondering what's the best way to go. And Rick, I think you have a lot of insights, whether it's about having a family business. I think there's actually a lot of wealth of information there. And you've seen the fireworks space
You learn
change.
something about what to do and not to do. So I bring
Right,
that at least to the table as a lot of experience. And I agree with you, though. It would have been nice to have had access to some knowledge base from people who have
right.
done certain things so that maybe you would have avoided some of the shortfalls and efforts that didn't produce much success and focused on
Right.
doing the kinds of things that seem to have produced the most beneficial outcomes.
Yeah. Well, let's keep going on family since we're there, because I think a lot of people, it's a family affair when it comes to
Hmm.
fireworks. It has been with me throughout my time in this space, whether it's friends, family, or children that are coming along. But just as someone that's got a family run business in the fireworks space, what are either some of the things you've learned or practical advice? What would you tell someone, like even me? What would you tell me that's got young kiddos that are coming up through the ranks? Like, what did you do that was awesome, and what would you do differently if you could
I
do it
think
over
the
again?
one thing that has come up over the years that is a caveat is it is hard to be the parent or the father and then transition to being the boss. And
Mm,
especially as the kids get a little older, where they see you as an equal and maybe the boss. And occasionally I've had to remind even my own kids who are now in their 40s that I am making a decision based upon the fact that I own the company and I have to make
right.
some decisions that may not,
Yes.
in terms of how you see it, are beneficial to
Right.
you, but maybe I see it as beneficial to the entire operation. Now, that doesn't happen often,
Right.
but I would say, from my experience as a parent and family operator, I would be very
Mm,
aware of how the process of getting the job done
mm,
plays out with family.
mm,
And, my wife
mm.
is very
Yes.
active in the business. We discuss a lot of things as anything, whether it's fireworks or the common who's taking the kids to school, there can be disagreements about how to get the job done. And I think there again is an opportunity that going into it, knowing that there could be potential, more communication is always better than less. And having someone not
Yes.
find out after the fact on an important decision that you've
Mm,
gone in a certain direction without possibly consultation, even though they might be in agreement with what you're doing. The fact that they didn't
right.
participate in the process is a critical part. I was a
Oh,
school
yeah.
administrator for 37 years, and I did learn that early on that having someone
Mm,
feel like they have ownership in the operation, whether it's your fireworks business or some other business, is a plus.
I love that. So you've got your family in a business that is something you started in, you came out of, you came back to, and you've gone from probably what you would describe as, yeah, it's a tarp with some two by fours and side of the road and grabbing fireworks to like what is really an established, healthy, not just fireworks business, but business
Yeah,
in general.
I mean,
You
I will
have
say over the
great.
years, and it took us a while to get there, but we started very meager, as I indicated earlier, along with what
Mm-hmm.
most did back in those days, to every year, adding a few more two by fours and a bigger blue tarp and tent,
Yeah.
and then a bigger tent,
Yeah.
and then, an established location where we could warehouse and retail in a store setting. And as those years came along, I think what made the biggest difference was always anticipating what is out there in the future to better promote and be successful at fireworks. Fireworks
Mm.
to me is a very unique industry in that you are in and out of it in a heartbeat. And you don't
Yes.
have a big open window for making the mistakes that is customary with any business. You've got to try
Right.
to look at others, getting advice, looking at what the marketplace looks like in your area, and making some decisions that will work themselves through rather quickly, one way or the other. And so, love it for
Mm.
that fact that, within in our area in the beginning, we had 10 days. Now we're down to 8 days. And of course, I have a year round
Wow.
location, but we still only open for about 45 days and do most of our retail business, as everyone does, pretty well from the first through the fourth, third and fourth,
Yep.
gangbusters, you hope. Uh,
Yes.
But along the way, I think there were a couple of things that really attributed to our development
Mm.
at maybe a little faster rate than others might have experienced because we have competitors in the area who started, some of them at the same time, but either they didn't have maybe a more
Mm.
aggressive approach to the business or they just didn't consider some of the components that important. And Christian, we've had this conversation, that marketing really is a critical factor in terms of whether you're going to be successful beyond the norm. And I think you've
Yes.
got to always look at any business. You can get into business and be a normal business and experience possibly normal success as opposed to failure. But if you really want to
Mm-hmm.
do something really well with a business, you've got to go beyond that norm. You've got to look at your business
Right.
as being something exceptional, unique, and something that everybody needs to not only know about, but
Right.
participate in your business. And so marketing became a big factor. And anything that I could associate general marketing principles as applied to fireworks I really tried to latch on to. And of course,
Mm.
I think the hardest decision I ever made was how much do you advertise? What are you willing to pay to market? And how are you going to use those advertising dollars? And you've got to go beyond the point where it hurts. Because at the end of a year, when you look at your net and you go, wow, I have a little money now, maybe even some residual money to do some things with it. What are you going to do with it? You're going to buy another
Right.
car, you're going on a bigger vacation, or are you going to look at putting another 5% into
Mm.
marketing and advertising and promotions? And believe me, once we
Yeah.
decided that we were going to put some of that residual in a hurtful amount in the beginning, it paid off multifold. And
Yes.
and I will give you a couple of very much for instances. The decision to use radio advertising or any kind of advertising is a difficult one. How much do you spend? How do you spend it? And what type of media do you use? It used to be newspapers were a viable way to market. Well, the
Right.
demographics are not what they used to be. So we don't
Right.
do any advertising with our newspapers.
Mm-hmm.
Radio can be effective, but again, what demographics are you wanting to speak to?
Mm.
We have utilized the LED media that changes the billboards. So not only
Mm.
do we appear to have much more professional credibility, but we have the opportunity to change that message in a heartbeat. And I would really recommend to anyone, whether you're able to just buy into one media board, I would definitely recommend it. Now we have about 7 that we use in our whole area,
Mm.
and they all run different things
Mm.
24/7. Every 8 seconds of every minute, there
Wow.
is one of our things coming out for about a 10-day period. That's been very
Wow.
effective from very early on. It cost, in reality now, it cost me about 1% of my net. Now, back in the
Mm.
day, it was costing about 15% of my net. But
Right.
that's what happened during that time. The other bit of marketing advice I would give is don't look at yourself as a seasonal business
Yeah.
because you're not. Your opportunity to sell fireworks in reality, and if you're licensed, you can obviously sell all year long. And there are markets out there
Mm-hmm.
for all year long. We supply a lot of wineries for their weddings, and it's the equivalent to a pretty good sized tent in terms of our total gross ad market.
Mm.
We supply all the racetracks, the dirt tracks, with all the fireworks that they shoot at their halftime shows. And that demographic is a great demographic to plug into.
Mm-hmm.
So again,
Mm-hmm.
the looking for it now, the other thing is every church, every civic organization has fundraisers all year long. You want to beg to have them call you. And you want to
Mm-hmm.
offer them firework, nice 500 gram, and always a gift certificate that they've got to come to the stand to use. And so I give away now hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of fireworks throughout the year. But
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen one time yet where when that uh, school that's got
Mm.
400 kids and we've got a spot on their dinner auction with
Right.
a $200 to $300 equivalent retail, people remember
Mm.
that you did that because nobody else.
Right.
So when they want to go buy
Mm.
fireworks, and a lot of people don't make that decision with any real advance notice, they go, well, let's see. Well,
Mm.
yeah, they were at the dinner auction. They donated stuff to us.
Right.
So that's the game you play. Is the now
Mm.
again? I don't know if I'm becoming too wordy, or you want me to plug into another
I
parts.
love this.
I will
I
tell you
love
two other
this.
things we've done that have been monumental in developing our business. We do a public free fireworks shoot. Have been doing it for 18 years now. We teamed up eventually. We did this at a winery to start with, but we now have the Knights of Columbus, big operation in our neighboring town. We hold the event on their facilities, great facilities for a fireworks show. They can park about 800 vehicles. They supply all the food and they make a good amount of money because we'll bring in about 16 to 1800 people for the free fireworks shoot.
Wow.
We ask them that they get free tickets if they email us and ask for how many tickets they need. That gives us their email, and it also gives the Knights of Columbus an idea of how many people are going to be there. So they supply, the amount of food and beverages that they're going to have. We shoot off about 60 items that are the newer items or the bigger items. We give them a program that shows those items, the cost of those items. We have a big screen that we show it up on. We shoot them off. We have
Mm.
a real nice introductory to the evening, obviously with this national anthem, uh, big fireworks shoot, rockets, red glare, we shoot off red rockets. Bombs bursting in air, we shoot off aerial bombs. And then a really
Mm.
nice finale with sometimes some stuff that's a little beyond the norm of the consumer fireworks. And we're known to do a
Mm.
couple of these diesel bombs or whatever they call them.
Oh,
The
let's
guy in the
go.
area,
Yes.
he begs me to do a bigger one every year at his expense. So
Yeah. Come
that
on.
public showing, and we'll get the TV stations to show up for it.
Mm.
So that amount of publicity
Mm.
and goodwill, and we get a lot of families that come and they're not going to buy fire. They just want to see fireworks. They bring their kids. Their kids are young. They have a good time. But it's that idea that you're promoting yourself and our name, Hoffman Family Fireworks, lends itself to why we see ourselves as a family oriented business. My
Mm,
experience in the fireworks business has been that 3/4 of my customers are families. A fourth of my
mm-hmm,
customers are big buyers who are buying for a show, for their neighborhood, for their lakeside, for whatever. And they will buy big. And we really encourage them to come to the shoot because, as we tell them, if you want to see what some of this stuff looks like before you buy it, why
yeah,
wouldn't you
yeah,
want to
come on
come
out.
and bring a couple
Mm,
buddies along? And they sell
yeah,
all kinds of beverages there. So have a cold one while you're watching our fireworks. It is a great PR tool to no end.
mm,
And so
mm,
that I would highly recommend. The other thing, and I think you've heard this spiel, but I'll repeat it again. About 5 years ago, maybe it's been longer than that, we decided early on that there were two things that we should be
mm,
promoting in our fireworks business. It's a family activity, and we want your family to be safe. So we always tried to
mm,
promote safety with our fireworks. And so we
mm,
developed a 5 gallon bucket that has our logo like this on the front of the bucket. Matter of fact, this is the front of it. The back
mm. Yeah, there we go.
has 10 of things you do to shoot fireworks safely. Most of them are simple things like have a bucket of water. You're going to get your
Yeah.
bucket. We're going to give it to you if you come in and buy $50 worth of fireworks. We're going to give you the bucket to be safe. Now, you
Mm,
can't imagine if you go to the fire department in your locale and tell them you're going to give out to people in your area a free bucket they can put water in so they can be safe during fireworks season. They love it because you're going to prevent somebody from burning something down that they didn't intend to burn.
mm,
You can go to the TV stations and say, look, we understand that there's a concern about safety in fireworks and that people do get injured. They don't use
right.
fireworks safely. So we want you to know that we're all about promoting safe use of fireworks. First of all, buy fireworks that are made to be safer, which more and more of those things are done that way today as they might have been 30 years ago. And we're going to also show you and promote the idea of what to do to shoot fireworks safety. So one of our radio ads is nothing more than the 10 best things to do to shoot fireworks safely. And the last item is if all of the other 9 seem to be common sense, then use it when you're shooting fireworks safely.
Mm,
And so you can imagine the
mm,
10 things are things that you would typically do. But one of the things you don't see a lot is be aware of your neighbor's pets. I have people
mm,
complain in our area of the city,
all the
fireworks
time.
are a nemesis for dogs, most of
Yep.
them. So at least be conscious of the fact that you're going to be dealing with
Right.
it. So always be aware of the public relations part of it. But we give out
Mm,
this year, I've got 5,000 buckets we're going to be giving out. Now, this year, it's a patriotic bucket. We've got the
yeah.
flag and the Pledge of Allegiance on one side. You turn it around on the other side, we've got the 250th. Uh,
Mm,
we've got the um, it becomes self-evident all men are created equal and it should be able to present
yeah, yeah.
Thomas Jefferson's quote. And on the little side panel,
Mm,
of course, on a bucket, you got to have the little don't put a bucket out so a kid falls in it. That's a requirement. But on the other little side panel, we just have our discount program and our
okay.
logo and our internet website.
Mm,
Because the bucket this year is not about us. It's
right.
about the celebration of the 250th. We want people to want
Yeah.
those buckets not only to have a safety item available, put water in, but as a kind of a memorabilia of the 250th. We're getting tremendous response from this. The other thing
Mm,
that we finally figured out this is the first year that I finally figured out that maybe there's a better way than giving that bucket out to a customer when he's there already in your place. So at this fireworks shoot, we're shooting for 2,000 people this year, and we'll get it. You're going to
wow.
help us get it.
Let's get
Okay.
it. Let's
And
go.
every person that comes in, it's always the second Saturday of June. We've been doing it that way for 18 years. We're going to give every car that comes in a bucket. We're going to give the first 100 cars that come in one of our T-shirts. Because it finally dawned on me, why am I giving these things out to people who are already customers? Why not get that kind of advertising out ahead of the season so they're walking around?
Right.
Maybe their kid's going to wear the shirt somewhere. Maybe they're going to have that
Okay.
bucket somewhere where somebody else is going to see it, especially this year when it's a commemorative bucket. We want people to go, where did you get that at? And if they're
Right.
not one of our customers,
Mm-hmm.
they may get another bucket when they come. I don't really care. The
Yeah,
bucket
yeah.
does two things. It gives somebody a safety component and it's advertising and it's goodwill
Yeah.
and it's to the
Mm,
customer. And what does it cost us?
mm.
$3.32. That's
Wow.
delivered. Now, you tell me what firework owner wouldn't spend $3.32 to get somebody to come to their stand and buy at least $50 worth. And obviously
At
people,
least. And I think that's something I want to draw out that you have really eloquently just explained how you've done a number of tactical, intentional initiatives. But there's something you said earlier on I want to come back to that I think for whether I'm a mature retail fireworks owner or I'm new to the space, you said two things I want to highlight and maybe get more of your thoughts on. One is a mindset. I'm not a seasonal business. Because what you're describing is year round planning, design, effort, community connection, PR, being intentional, finding the pain points, and even the negative pain points. Pets, the negative perception of a bunch of drunk people just blowing up fireworks being dangerous. Like you are spending a lot of time with things that everyone in the fireworks space is loosely aware of, but not many people sit with long enough to realize the mindset shift is maybe I do have another job. Okay, that's fine. But I have to pay attention to this business year round if I want it to get beyond a stand or a building or something that's just there on the side of a highway. If you want to build connection, you actually have to spend time, like you said, studying your market, knowing where there's opportunities, shaking hands, and giving back, trying to serve. And that's not a given for most people. It's not that most people wouldn't do it. It's just that I think, Rick, you stumbled on that mindset shift through, I'm curious where that came from. Like when did you decide, and was it from the beginning? This isn't a seasonal business. It is seasonally open, but this is something I'm going to think about year round. When did that happen for you?
I don't know that there was a single event. I will say there was one thing that happened that took us in a direction that almost forced us to be seasonal. We were at a winery one night for a dinner. And anytime I'm somewhere, any time of the year, and somebody shoots off a firework, I got to know what are they doing that for? And whose fireworks are they shooting? And what firework is it? And why isn't it mine? So we were up north, about 100 miles from Cape Girardeau at a winery with some friends having dinner, and a firework goes off. And this is in November. And immediately I go over to the balcony, beautiful winery, high end winery. And there's a couple of guys down there shooting fireworks. Well, I find my way
Wow.
down and go, hey, what you guys got going there? And they explained to me that they were going to have a big New Year's Eve fireworks party at the winery,
Mm.
and they were
Mm.
just shooting some things off to see what it would look like. And I told
Mm.
them, I said, great idea, great idea. Oddly enough, I'm in the fireworks business. And I'd love to
Mm.
help you have the best show you've ever had before. Well, they said, we've never done this before. I said, well, all the better. I said, if you'll allow me to come back in a week or two and I'll bring you some fireworks that I think, of course, today with the 500 grams, you have got all kinds of
Yeah.
options that we didn't have 30 years
Right.
ago. 30 years ago, we had that little three
Mm.
pod comet that barely went 20 feet in the air. Not
Right.
anymore. Some of the stuff that we can shoot now legally as a consumer fireworks is exceptional. So I took them back several things and I said, here's what we've got, and I've got about 85 different ones at that time. Well,
Mm,
they ended up ordering about $2,500 worth of fireworks. And since then, they have done wedding shows where we put together a $1,000 kit for them. They sell it for
mm,
two, and we'll do 40 to
mm.
60 shows amongst a number of wineries in that region every year. That's
Wow.
why I'm saying don't think of your business as a sideline or non seasonal
Hmm.
business. But when that happened, it dawned on me that I should be looking at all kinds of venues. And the latest one came to me by pure accident. A guy shows up in a
Mm,
truck. Well, here, I'll go back. The
mm,
university called us and they wanted us to shoot fireworks during football game, during the national anthem,
mm,
when the kids run onto the field. I mean, when the players run on the field, when they score a touchdown. Fine, we'd be happy to do that. Great audience. And then on their Jumbotron, they put up Hoffman Family Fireworks. So if you've got a venue in your area that has a special sports teams, now the high school was a little hesitant because of liability, but the university has that covered. If you got a small university in the area,
mm,
you ought to be knocking on their door if you haven't already. The audience out there happened to be a guy who is a pace vehicle for the dirt track, the sprint car races.
mm,
He comes up last year in the fall when the season was pretty well half over. And he said, I was at a football game and you shot fireworks off during the national anthem. Rockets, red glare, you shot six flares and bombs bursting air, you shot six
mm,
aerial balls. You think I could do that out of the back of
mm,
a truck? And I said, well, yes, you can, but I'm assuming you're moving. Yeah, we'd be going slow. I said, well, we got to discuss whether there's some issues there, safety being one, obviously. So we
mm,
actually put together a practice, you might say, put together a series of racks, and he tried it out, and it went over tremendously. And so now
mm,
we are at 15 different dirt tracks. He shoots fireworks off every race at the national anthem, and the dirt tracks are buying fireworks for us to shoot during their intermissions. We are going to
mm.
do a very sizable amount of business with those tracks. And we've also had the tracks announce that if they bring a ticket stub into our location, they're going to get a free firework. And so I
Yeah.
went ahead and ordered 20 cases of it's four different fireworks called racing.
Mm,
Sprint car, NASCAR, four different little venues. They cost us about $1.50 a piece. We're going to retail them for about $4.95, and we're going to give them one of those. They bring the ticket stub in. So you're always looking for a new market.
right.
But that's what started it,
Mm,
probably that winery and going there. But my suggestion is anytime you're out, and if you're in the fireworks business and you hear a firework going off, check,
right.
check it out.
Oh, I love that. I mean, all of this relates to your marketing mindset, your abilities, your skill. You're very naturally gifted to see opportunities and realize, like, why shouldn't I be in this conversation? But there's something else you said earlier that I think in this industry in particular is challenging. And it's something you said you guys made a commitment to, and I want to pull this out just a little bit more because I think it's rich. I think I and you together collectively, a lot of people in the fireworks space would probably say it's a little bit of a feast and famine business. When you get rich, you're rolling, and by the time you get to May, it's okay. It's not shameful to be here, but it's like I'm on
Yeah.
fumes and I'm just trying to cruise in. And there's no judgment of how people are spending their money. That's not the point. But there is a point that I think I've run into a lot where it's like, hey, it's March. We could do some things to help you grow. There's all the desire, there's all the want to or belief, but there isn't a business muscle developed of setting aside money for marketing. because it's so impulsive. It is a drive-by sale. Now, that's not to say that's the only way you get sales, but for a lot of people, that's either enough or they don't realize there's other ways to do that, be it racetrack connections or winery connections or putting on a show, or I would submit digital marketing. So if you were talking to someone that's newer in the space or considering joining the space, I think this is true of all businesses. But what would you recommend they set aside to invest in marketing in whatever channel it may be? What type of money as a percentage should they just say, that's not mine? That's to reinvest in the
I
business.
think that's a very good question. The industry oftentimes, and the advertising people, of course, they want you to advertise. So they're using a figure, of return on investment of about 15% of your net.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't start off doing that, but I did start off with 10% of my net. And I made a vow to our family. And I would say, and you
Mm-hmm.
brought up a very good point, because when we started in the fireworks business, our kids were attending a parochial school. And our intent was to make enough money to pay for their tuition. That was it. And we did. And we made a little extra. So we said, well, we'll take the kids on vacation. And for
Mm-hmm.
probably 4 or 5 years, that was my focus of extent in terms of why I was in the fireworks business. At some point, I began to realize that there is more out there, regardless of the competition. And we had a lot of competition. When I first started, there was a gentleman in the area who had 11 locations, and he
Wow.
wagged the dog. But he
Yeah.
didn't do what we've just been discussing. He didn't do much with marketing. He just throws stuff out there. He didn't do any public relations.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't think about what other things throughout the season would enhance his presence amongst the public. And we
Mm-hmm.
finally started eating away, and he's no longer in business.
Mm-hmm.
So it does make a difference that you do focus on something beyond maybe that one or two things that you're doing this for. You want to buy a new car. You want to be whatever. We started with 10%. Now, I guess I shouldn't say this, but now we probably only invest about 8%. But our
That's a bigger
is
pie.
significantly more. It was
Yeah, yeah.
back in the day when we were trying to do 10%.
And that is net profit, or is that net revenue? Net profit. So out of your bottom line, you're taking 10% or 8% now, and you're saying earmark it, set it aside, and now I've got some dry powder to go and be aggressive. And here you are. And I think it's also telling that, it's business. It's not personal, it's business. But there's a guy around you that was a dominant force who is no longer, because you were intentional in the off season. You had money at your disposal to invest, and you were creative and you tried new things. And eventually your marketing developed a brand. So you went beyond just marketing. It's now a household name in your area.
That's a very,
You're a brand.
yeah,
And that takes longer than just marketing does. Being a brand is different. But I think that, again, for our listeners who do think that the fireworks space is all about location and all about, it is about that and it is about product. I'm not going to say that it's not. Business is complicated. But I think because people assume this is a seasonal space, I'm going to turn it on when it's on and I'm going to turn it off in my brain when it's off. I'm going to set my tents, I'm going to set my stands, and I'm going to forget when I put them away, wherever that may be. I'm just going to forget. And here's the story of what was a small operation that became kind of a powerhouse because, one, you stop seeing yourself as seasonal. You're open seasonally, but you're thinking about it year round. And two, you gave yourself the necessary resources to take some risks, on investing in different things. And again, I know you probably know this, Rick, but that's a very rare combination. There's others out there like this, but that's a rare combination. And I think to people listening, there's a lot to sit with just with what you've shared so far about your mentality. The tactics are great. I love the buckets and I love the wineries and I love the shoot off. And the tactics for someone else might be different because it's a different town and it's a different, kind of demographic. Maybe it's a different season. Maybe there's two seasons versus
Right.
one. Who knows? But I think the idea of you've got to get your mind locked in that you can't shut this off and you need to not spend all your money. And I do agree. I think if you were to ask, not most, but a lot of savvy business advisors, they would tell you that if you want to grow your business, you need to be setting aside, actually, I think the number, and again, I'm not a professional business advisor, but I've done it for a while and I've studied it enough. I think the number for most businesses is actually an average of 7 to 8% of revenue. And 15% of revenue can actually get you into a space where you're like active growth. But some of that's like software and SaaS companies and things that we're not. So again, I think,
When you talk about 15%, it doesn't have to be advertising. Like we made a decision about 8 or 9 years, maybe 10 years ago now, to go POS at all of our
mm-hmm,
locations. So that speeds up the
mm-hmm,
process. It increases your opportunity to track inventory. It increases your opportunity to find out what's selling and what's not selling. And
right,
one of the
right.
things that is critical, there's a I guess they refer to it as that critical mass. When do you reach a point where you're looking at direct importing?
Mm-hmm,
Significant.
mm-hmm,
It's a tough
mm-hmm,
decision to make because you're going to have some extra revenue or you're going to have some credibility with your importers so that they'll fund you part of your costs for those until after the fourth. Now, um, one of the things that I did early on, and I'd recommend this just for the sake of doing it. I went to China. I went to Liang and and uh, and visited the factories that were making some of our stuff and to know a little
mm,
bit about generics and who makes them and how they're made and see that whole two things happened. For one, I ordered one container, saved probably 15 to 20% off of what I was paying stateside from from good
right.
wholesalers. I mean, they're making trying to make a living too. But I found out a little what goes on
Right.
behind the scene. And secondly, when you establish a relationship with a Chinese company, they are forever in your corner. They
Mm,
really, I have nothing but good things to say about and I've been over there 6 times, which isn't really a lot.
wow.
And I'm getting ready to go again because I didn't go during the COVID period. But you will be
Mm,
treated very well. They expect you to respect them. And in turn, they have nothing but respect for Americans and for people they're doing business with. So I found out that when I ordered a full container, I got some priority on whether I got those items on a certain time frame. And if I had
mm,
any issues with damage, totally took care of it. That hardly ever happens. Hardly ever a
interesting.
chance where I don't, get an invoice that's not accurate to what's on the container. But there
Mm,
was one time, no question, no question as how they would handle it. They trusted you 100% because they got to meet with you. You went out to dinner with them. You did the things that
yeah.
they felt were important enough that you came to visit them. Now, that's not for everybody. But if you get to the point where you're doing, let's just say you're grossing 100,000 plus a year, you're ready to go to China. You're ready to,
Mm,
containers, maybe just one.
mm,
Now we
right.
order 5 to 6. But that didn't happen in the
Mm,
beginning, obviously. But that's
right.
another growth factor to be thinking about in terms of developing your business. And I thought it's become a major factor for us having a
Right.
increased opportunity for profit margin because here's something else we have to do in our area. We have a huge competitor in our area. This competitor buys
Mm,
an item for $1 and sells it for 2. Now, most fireworks don't do that.
Mm,
So if we
yeah.
want to compete, I don't want to do that either. So we developed a discount program. Now, some people
Mm,
argue about, do you give a customer a discount? Or do you wait till when they're done and they bought $200 worth? You say, well, $200 worth, you get 10% free fireworks because that's not costing you, you know, the $20 you're going to give them for $200. But
mm,
once they finish buying their fireworks, technically they're finished buying their fireworks. Now you can give them some other
right.
stuff and they're not going to not take it. But I guarantee everybody loves a discount. And so one of the things that we utilize on our program is a discount program,
Mm,
and we make up all of our own shelf cards, and
mm,
that allows me to do a lot of things. And one of the things we found out 2 years ago, we order 10% on $25, 20% on $100, and 30% off on $200 purchase. Now we build that
mm,
in, keeping in mind in terms of what we set our retail price for. So that we're
mm,
not giving this stuff away when you look at the bottom line. But what we found out is most people can't figure out what 10%, 20%, and 30% is. So several years ago, we put what we charge for the item, and then we put right underneath it 10% off is this, 20% off is this, 30% is off of this. So all of a sudden, when they look at that item that's $40, but now it's only 32 if I buy $200 worth. Well, most people that are going to do a fireworks of any kind, $200 is not out of their
mm,
pocket. Even the ones that come in and the
mm,
kids don't have shoes, and you know that they don't take care of their family the way they should. It's not my place to judge them, but they're going to buy $200 worth too. But they look at that top price and they see what they're going to get it for $200. It's an automatic. You're going to sell them $200 every time they come in. But what we found was
mm,
we had to show them that, because many
yeah.
of them, they'd come up and go, well, what's 20% off of that? I don't know.
Mm,
Eliminate all guesswork, I guess is what I'm saying,
mm,
in buying fireworks. Let them know it's a fountain. It's going to stay on the ground. It's an bomb. It's going to
mm,
go in the air. It's a rocket.
mm,
Who knows where the hell it's going to go?
yeah.
And we don't sell many rockets for that reason, because a rocket
Right.
never lands in your backyard or nowhere near it.
No,
And
no.
about 10 years ago, we had a house burned down because somebody shot a rocket in the city. It was one of our rockets. And, and it
Mm,
was a fireman's house. So automatically, when I heard that happen, I thought, oh my gosh, this is not going to go down well. There was an automatic repercussion of, we're going to ban fireworks in this community that we have. We have two big locations, and one of them's in this community. So I go to the city council meeting thinking, boy, we're going to get beat up pretty bad. The very first speaker was that fireman who owned that house. Now, I didn't burn his house down totally, but it did major damage.
yeah.
It landed in a flower bed with mulch, and that created some problems. He got up and
Oh
he
boy.
said, I want everyone here to know, before we even start the discussion, that I am not against fireworks. I do not want to see you
Wow.
banning fireworks in the city. I would like to see you ban rockets in the city. But as far as everything else, people enjoy fireworks. They can
Mm,
be shot safely. And here's a fireman. And in reality, most firemen love fireworks, because I work
yeah.
with fire
Totally.
departments on a number of other things,
Yep.
and they like shooting them off just as much as any of us do. But
Yeah.
that gentleman
Totally.
changed the whole course of that conversation. And so we did
Mm,
two things that night. We eliminated all stick rockets in the city. Fantastic. Because that eliminated future problems that were definitely going to be there. And secondly, they wanted to
yeah.
shorten the day from 10 days to 8. And I acted like I complained, but I loved it, because that's 2 less days in this location
Yeah.
in a big tent sitting there. Because we all
Yeah.
know, you're going to sell the majority of your stuff in that
It's
last go.
that's right. That's right.
So,
Oh, that's so
so I
interesting.
think in marketing, also be thinking about what can make your stand different than someone else's. These hang cards, which tell you what they do, the discount, describes the item, and we put usually a little goofy quip underneath it. People love going around just looking at it. And
Yeah.
today, every firework almost has a QR code. And
Right.
and I would say make certain your stand
Mm.
is equipped for them to be able to get to the YouTube. In our we
Mm.
have hotspots, and we use a high level hotspot that and we put amplifiers on some boosters just to make sure, like in a metal building where we've got a big retail location in several rooms metal. We want to make sure that they're walking around, if they want to do that, they can see that item. It's great to have
Right.
TVs and stuff up. We kind of went through that era, but I don't want people standing around looking at a TV on the 3rd of July. They're in the way, to be honest with you, going
Yeah.
down the
Right.
flow. That's why
Right.
POS systems and multiple checkouts. And this year, we're actually going to incorporate 2 walk around checkouts. We're going to
Mm.
go
Yep.
Walmart on them. If we
Yeah. Come
got
on.
customers backed up to this place and
Yeah.
people can't get around the aisle, we're going to send out 2 of our people to check you out where you're standing. If you got a cart load, we'll just check you out, do everything, and get you out of there. You don't even have to come up to the counter.
Are you using Square?
Yes, we use Square.
Yeah. Same. So you have those Square handhelds have been amazing, haven't they? Those
Well,
are
I'm glad to
like a
hear
game
our first year to
changer.
use them.
Oh, they're so much better. I mean, I've been buying iPads and the socket Bluetooth scanner and then the separate terminal for tap to pay, chip, whatever. I own everything you could buy, third party or Square. I've owned it for, that's been one of our differentiating factors is speed, transparency, iPads, it's fast, it's
You give that
modern, and it sounds
sales slip, and
obvious.
he knows he got fair price on everything.
Right.
And I always tell him, take that thing along when you shoot them off. If there's something you really like, check it off, stick it
Right.
in a box somewhere in the next. Don't come
Yep.
in and tell me, gosh, last year we had this thing that went up in the air and it shot over here and shot over there. You got that yet?
You're right. Right.
Yeah, I'll look at 5 other
Ah.
ones or 100.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
Right.
it's again, I think, as you're saying, look at ways of making you different than anyone else. And
Mm,
yes, it's going to cost you a little money,
it
but it's
does.
also make
So
you
worth it.
money.
It's going to make you some
Some
serious money
significant.
to speed up your lines, improve the
We had
experience.
years where we increased our gross sales by 20%, and we didn't do
Yeah.
anything more than market ourselves throughout the year on the ways that we've just kind of been discussing. And
Yeah.
if you could knock off a nice 20% increase in gross sales year after year, you start selling some dang fireworks.
You're going to be doing okay.
Well,
And it's possible. It's not everyone's experience in the fireworks space. I do turn to a lot of people that I think that our industry, and maybe Rick will end here. I want to pick your brain on industry stuff where you see it going, but I do see and hear a lot of people that do stagnate. And that's why they talk to me. So they're talking to the marketing guy. I have my own location, so I'm doing this, just kind of sharing ideas and tactics, and then what do we do on marketing? And some of the impetus for the conversation is I am not doing as well. The competition has changed. And so it is a business in the sense that nothing is set in stone. No one has a monopoly. Even the best businesses can fall. If there's anything that history teaches us, business or otherwise, civic, political, nothing's set in stone. Things can change pretty quickly. And you run into a lot of people that, again, it's the chicken or the egg. It's like, I need to grow, but I'm afraid to invest. And that's not an easy answer to how we're going to come up with the money. Where's it going to come from? I don't know. But you must, in your processes, your systems, your marketing, your product, your people, you do have to take risks, right? That is the name of it.
I've got to insert something that I think is a major factor.
Do it.
Major.
Do it.
You've got to decide, do you want to sell out of fireworks or do you want to have as many fireworks in your stand the night of the 4th as you had on the day you started? And believe me, there is a significant difference in the amount of fireworks you're going to sell if that customer knows
Yeah.
they can come in late, which a lot of them don't want their fireworks sitting around in the house. They want them around the 3rd or
Right.
4th. They're going to shoot them right as soon as they can buy them. And if they know they're going to
Yes.
come to your place at 4 o'clock on the 4th and you're half
Yeah.
out of fireworks, they're not going to come to your.
It's bad.
And my
It's not a
brother
good
ran an
look.
operation that he wanted to sell out every year. And
Right.
he did. He did.
Yep.
Once we decided we
Right.
needed a warehouse or some way to store fireworks because they're going to sell and they keep well, as we know in the fireworks
They
business.
do.
That's not an issue. Matter of fact, they get better because in Louisiana they set out
Mm-hmm.
on a mountainous area where there's a lot of moisture and they don't even dry out the year they're made
Right.
until about 2 years later if you store them properly, and then they're brighter, shoot higher, louder, much better. But he always wanted to sell out. We decided we were going to have as much stock as possible, unless we obviously were
Mm.
selling out, period, of our inventory. But we try not to have that happen. I want to carry over at least a full container or more because I got to sell fireworks the rest of the year too. But
Right.
he finally retired and we bought him out in 2 years because we went to having everything in a set. We doubled his gross 2 years. So I would advise to
Yep.
people, think long and hard about whether you want to sell out because a lot of small stands, and we did that too in the beginning. We wanted to sell out, make
Mm-hmm.
as much money as we could. You know, we on the 5th, we'd about give them away because we felt like if we got our what we paid for them, we didn't have to on them.
We're good.
And that's a mentality that it works. It
Yep.
doesn't get you to where you can go. So
Right.
that's I want to make sure I got that in before we finished up.
No,
That's
that's
the
I think that's really
I
well
think
said.
that fireworks people have to make.
And that's a mindset shift too. Selling out, in one sense, you made money. Congratulations. Like the game of business, at some level, you're okay. You made money. You
Yeah.
bought and sold all of your inventory. But with the way we're talking about it, and I was the same. I would just, when I was early on in this, my first few years from 2010, 2013, 2014, I'm like you, I'm just throwing it out the
Yeah,
door
we do
in
that
the
too.
end, right? And you eventually realize, you talk to a few people, and again, back to the point of this podcast, it's just to help people realize, pause. Figuring out storage is not rocket science. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's doable. And if you realize, like you said, the amount of money that you're leaving on the table and the long-term ceiling that you're lowering your ceiling. Because now every year your inventory is turning over 100%. And in any business, that's actually a sign of failure. You need to have margin of inventory in any business that you can supply the demand. So I had one of my 4 locations was very similar. It wasn't a family member, but it was a friend. I run it for him now. He runs a ministry. He started as a fundraiser, and during COVID, he was like, "I'm done. I know you're in the fireworks space, and you've been asking me if I needed help. Take it over, run it for us." So I run it for him. It's my stand, kind of to the benefit of this nonprofit. And he would tell me, he would send me pictures at like 2 o'clock on the 4th. I'm out
Yeah.
before I took it over. And we've doubled their revenue too. We 2x their revenue in 2 years, just
Yeah.
like you. It's the same story. And all that we did is we took a bigger risk on inventory. We invested in marketing. We did everything else, right? Like a good layout, a good staff. We make it feel safe. It's fun. It's not even that big of a tent. So some of you that have like $30,000 or $40,000 setups, they might be $60,000 to $70,000
You're right.
setups if you just had more product. And it's like scary because you're thinking side hustle, you're thinking temporary, make a $10,000 profit and feel great about it. It's like, that's not bad. But if you want more, these are some of the things that you have to embrace, like the gut check reality of, oh, that's a bigger check, or credit terms, or something that I have to write. But again, like, It's not that all risk always turns out, but you don't really make a lot in business if you're unwilling to take risks. And that's what fireworks is great at. It's a great business for taking, you've got a lot of time to think. You've got a lot of time to think in this business to kind of like evaluate. It's not every month you've got to have something going like most retail, where it's like pivoting and still open and I've got staff and all the things payroll year round. Like we don't have that, generally speaking. You have, like for you, Rick, you are open and you have staff in a building and expenses, but a lot of people, they lock it down and it's just over. And I think that if you start to take some of what Rick is telling you, buy more product and be okay with it because it will pay you back. It's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. You can overbuy to the point of like absurdity, but maybe it's 20% more, 30% more. Most of us would probably be okay. Because Rick, I think you said something earlier where it's like if you're a $100,000 in revenue group, you should be buying containers direct from China. And to most people, that would be like, oh my God, no, I shouldn't. That's for the big boys. And you're like,
Yeah.
That's for the little guys now.
It's not as risky as one might assume, and it's not as difficult as one might assume.
Right.
But, it is a different approach that you want to educate yourself about. And, your choice is there. Go through another importer who is offering container pricing, and that's good. Right. And then if you get to the point where you want to get your own broker, again, you're going to save another 10 to 15%. It's a supply chain. Everybody's got to have a piece of that pie.
Yes.
Well, the more of the pie you get, the more opportunity you have to make. And, the nice thing about fireworks is most of us operate on about a, 300% margin, let's say, give or take. If you can buy that item for 20% less and you don't pass that on to the public, I incorporate what I feel is a competitive price and still beat other locations. But because I bought it for so much less, that 300% gives you a nice net at the end.
It does.
So,
because a business that's profitable, that makes less revenue, just if you had to choose, a business that's profitable is way more valuable than a business that just has gaudy revenue numbers. $1 million in sales, less than, in the fireworks space, this would be really rare, but like less than 10% margin. Yeah. It's probably not most people, but that's not what you want. You want the 25 to 30% margin business that does 300,000 or 400,000. So that's like a conversation for another day, is thinking about, again, I just don't think a lot of people even look at their financials with this lens. Some do. Some are really savvy. Rick, you're really savvy. I know you look at your financials and you think about margin and you think about whatever. Beyond just here's what I made, so now this is what I can spend. You think about it in terms of the health of your business, but that's like a part of what I want to help with, is not just the marketing, but just having conversations where it's like, oh yeah, like what's my profit margin target for the year? What needs to be true to go from a 17%, 25% margin to 35%? It is product. It's product, right? It's a huge part of it. It's not the only part, but that's a huge part of forecasting and doing some, it's maybe 201, it's not 101 stuff, but it's doable. It is doable to think about your business in these ways and to make good decisions. And as you said, it's not as hard as it used to be to either get a container from an importer or to do it yourself. And that's, again, there's a lot there that I think we could flesh out. But Rick, give us in a parting thought, what is something you didn't get to mention that you want to tell someone that might be listening to this that's either in the space or thinking about the space?
Because we're a bit larger operation, we have a number of employees. And the employees, for the most part, half of them, maybe a few more, have been with us for 20 years or more. You want the people that are going to work for you to be the kind of people that are going to meet the public, be a help to your business, and you're going to want to pay them well. And my experience, because I was a administrator in school, I knew that teachers were one of the best sources of employees. Yep. For one, they have enough knowledge to understand what you're doing and how you do it. And they always like to have a summertime side job because some of them are going to school. Some of them are just,
Right.
wanting a little bit of something to supplement what they do this summer. They've been very good employees. And I would say a real key is to get employees. And if they're good, keep them, make them feel they are important to your business because they ultimately are going to make or break you. And it's like I tell my employees, I'm going to do everything possible to
Mm,
get people through the front door. And it's your
right.
baby. It's
Yes.
you who are going to make us successful, not me any longer, because I'm not there all
Right.
the time. I'm out doing my thing, delivering or whatever else. And
Hmm.
if I walk through, I greet people and say, but those employees, and don't try to get by on nickel and diming them. Pay them reasonably good salary. And of course, nowadays, $15 not even considered a reasonable salary anymore. We're looking at
Right.
more like 18 to $20 for an employee, and and they're going to work hard for that money because they feel that you're appreciating them as opposed to taking advantage
Right.
of them. That would be my
Right.
advice: is look at the people that are working for you because they're going to, and if they come
Mm,
back every year, they come back with knowledge. They come back with friends.
yes.
They come back with people who know they're going to be there.
Yep.
So you can build your business by letting other people help you build it, and that's employees.
Yes.
So
That's well said.
I got
Yeah.
anything
Sorry.
else?
Keep
If
going.
there were any other words of wisdom, I think we covered so dadgum much stuff that even I
I love
sit
it.
back and think, well, I better get going to work on some of this.
Absolutely. Well, we'll wrap quickly again, Rick. Thank you for your time. Thanks
Pleasure. I hope
for sharing
I pass on a
stories.
little bit of information that others can use.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot here for those that got through this podcast and listened to it maybe. I think there's probably a number of things to sit with and mull over. And, um, we're in busy season, but, shoot Rick an email maybe. We're prepping. Shoot me an email if you have follow-up questions. And we'll do more of these. There'll be more conversations to come, and we might have Rick back
I,
someday.
I've been fortunate and been successful, and I would love nothing more than help others that would like to do the same. And so, if I can be of assistance to somebody out there, we're on the web, we're on Facebook. You guys are going to be promoting us a lot, so don't
That's
feel
right.
like that you need to be a total stranger. Give us a call if we think we can help you in some way or give you some additional information about where to buy buckets or what to do here or there. We'd be glad to share that with you. I always feel like
I love that.
um, you're not going to be a direct competitor, but you are going to be in a business that we both want to succeed in.
Yes. That generous spirit is a great note to end on. It's the spirit that I want to have as well, and that I want to see friendly, serving each other and having an abundance mindset. There's enough for everyone here, and it is sometimes hard to share knowledge with people that are down the street. But I that's a story for another day. But I love that, and I appreciate that from you, Rick. Thanks for sharing your wealth of wisdom and stories. And I think we'll definitely have you back. Maybe it'll be after the 4th, and we'll circle
Well,
the wagons and see what worked and go
work or
from
be
there.
of
But
benefit, I'm always open to that opportunity. It's been a pleasure speaking with you and maybe speaking with some others who will hear this at some point in time.
perfect. Well, with that, guys, we'll let you go.
Yeah,
Rick, thank you again. Until
buddy.
next time,
It's going
stay
to be a great
safe.
year.